In the early days when humanity first transitioned to a settled life, when people had just learned to sow seeds, raise animals, and store their produce, one of the most fundamental problems they faced was how to safely keep their goods and accumulated wealth, protect them from others, and transfer them when needed for credit or trade. Because grains could rot, valuable metals could be stolen, debts could be forgotten, and if unpaid, the social fabric and economic order of society could be deeply disrupted. For this reason, in the ancient cities of Mesopotamia, temples were not only places of worship, but also central mechanisms where people could safely deposit their valuables, store grain and precious metals, and record transactions on clay tablets, which functioned as a form of money in today's terms. Inside these temples, priests meticulously recorded not only barley and grains, but also valuable metals. Over time, these records became financial instruments, serving as the only means for merchants and villagers to secure their assets and conduct trade. Because no one wanted their grain or precious metals stolen during long journeys, and the priests, being literate and state-affiliated, ensured that this system operated both reliably and orderly. At this point, perhaps one of the most critical revolutions in human history occurred. For when a merchant used a clay tablet obtained from the temple to say to another merchant, "I offer you the value entrusted to me," it not only facilitated trade, but also directly influenced social trust, the complexity of economic relationships, and the temple's authority, laying the foundation for the silent yet powerful origins of modern banking. However, the other side of this system deeply affected villagers who fell into debt and small producers struggling to make payments, making them dependent on the temple vaults and priests. In this way, the security and order offered by banking became for some a heavy burden and an almost enslaving force. In Babylon, with the massive stone laws written by Hammurabi, debt and interest relations were legally secured, interest rates were established, the debtor was protected, and the state became an authority overseeing and guaranteeing the first financial order arising from temple treasuries. Because debt was no longer merely an individual matter, but a central element of economic life and state policy, with society participating as both providers and victims of this financial order. The Hammurabi laws not only ensured economic order, but also combined state power, temple authority, and social justice, establishing the earliest banking regulations in history, securing the rights of both debtor and creditor for the first time, and giving rise to long-term economic discipline across all layers of society. In Egypt, the state assumed the entire banking function, with grain storages and treasury vaults operating like public banks, collecting taxes, ensuring the population's survival during times of scarcity, and thereby creating state banking. This system demonstrated to humanity that banking was critical not only for individual gain, but also for social order and state governance. The security and order provided by state banks became a great source of power, especially for the pharaoh and priestly class, while for peasants and small producers burdened with heavy taxes and debt, this security simultaneously represented intense economic pressure. Thus, banking emerged as both an instrument of progress and societal inequality in history. In ancient Greece, banking moved out of state monopoly into the hands of private entrepreneurs and merchant families. The Trapezites, or table bankers, not only exchanged money but also provided trade credit, facilitated international commerce, and ensured trust among merchants. Sea traders would entrust their money and assets to these bankers during long voyages, saving time and reducing security risks. Yet, for small producers and peasants under heavy debt and interest, the system imposed significant economic pressure, showing again that banking's promise of security and order could manifest as a burden and cause of victimization for some. The Trapezites determined the value of money, calculated risks when granting credit, and sometimes operated with state guarantees, thereby accelerating trade and ensuring economic stability. This practice introduced the fundamental principles of modern banking, including credit provision and collateral relationships, into history. The Roman Empire systematized banking and created structures most similar to modern banks. Argentarii, or bankers, operated as a separate profession, provided state-backed deposits, issued instruments similar to checks, and managed money transfer systems. This allowed secure trade across imperial boundaries, centralized tax collection, and maintained economic order. Yet high interest rates, bribery, and manipulation caused severe hardships for small producers and the poor, making Roman banking both an instrument of progress and inequality. Roman banking functioned not only as an economic force but also as a social and political power. Through banks, the state managed trade, taxation, and public security, demonstrating that finance has always been more than mere money, shaping social balance as well. In medieval Europe, banking revived especially in trading cities like Florence and Venice. Wealthy banking families, such as the Medicis, gained both economic and political power. Through banks, trade accelerated, international connections were established, and city-states grew stronger. However, peasants, agricultural producers, and small artisans under heavy credit burdens were the victims of this system. This period marked the foundation of modern banking, where finance began to shape society, the state, and political balances. During the Renaissance, banking in European city-states became an economic revolution. Families like the Medici not only gained financial profit, but also became a force shaping politics, art, and social life. Banks accelerated trade, facilitated international connections, and strengthened city-states. Yet, for peasants, producers, and small artisans under high interest and debt, the system remained a source of economic and social pressure. Here, banking emerges as a symbol of both progress and inequality in history. In the Ottoman Empire, banking was largely state-controlled, with treasury and vault systems managing tax collection and regulating trade and exchanges. State banking ensured economic order and became a central tool of imperial governance. While the financial security of the populace and merchants was guaranteed by the state, small producers and artisans, burdened with heavy taxes and debt, faced hardships, once again showing that banking manifested as both power and burden. With the Industrial Revolution, banking became the indispensable backbone of the modern economy. Capital accumulation, credit provision, financing of international trade, and investment processes began to be managed through banks. Stock exchanges and central banks emerged, and states regulated financial systems to ensure economic growth and social stability. Yet, the rapid expansion. Today, even in the age of digital banking, the roots of banking trace back to temple storages of barley and clay tablets. As humanity continues to need protection for its value and secure trade, banking will persist as both an engine of social progress and a source of economic pressure and inequality. Banks represent not only money, but also trust, commerce, state power, and social order, demonstrating themselves throughout history as an institution inseparable from humanity, with both beneficiaries and victims shaping their legacy.